Okay, it looks like I am live. If anyone is jumping in, please let me know. My screen looks very dark. I hope you guys can actually see me. I've got all the lights on. Yes, I'm confident that we're live because there's a little timer there. So I think we should just keep chugging along with some of these cool questions. So this is my second time around. I am just as excited as the first one. Now, everyone has sent in some really cool questions and I have taken the time to write them down. So I've gone in just recently and collated all the questions and written them down. So let me work my way through them in no particular order. First up was Andrea. She has sent through a question and her question was, when you have been doing this lifestyle for a while, it can be easy to become complacent and just go through the motions without really challenging yourself mentally or physically. What would be your biggest tips for somebody who may feel as though they are just going through the motions, getting stuff done, but feel as though they are living in the comfort zone and have hit a plateau with their changes? Now, first of all, I am going to agree with Andrea because it can be easy to become complacent and just end up going through the motions once you've got some basic habits in place. And after a while, it can get to that stage where you're not really challenging yourself either physically or mentally or both. So my biggest tip to answer Andrea's question is to, if you're experiencing this yourself, to ask the question about, are you happy with this, with yourself the way you are now? Now, if the answer is yes, technically we can't really call that complacency, because if you're happy with the way you are now, then things are chugging along, what you're doing for yourself is working for you and that's generating enough happiness. But if you ask that question to yourself deep down and there are a few things that pop into your head that you would really like to achieve or deep down you really want for yourself, then that answer is no. No, I'm not happy with the way you are now. So if the answer is no, what you really need to do is reset your goalposts. And I'm not saying your goalposts, I'm saying your goals need to be moved forward. So what can happen is that when you first start, you have these big goals in front of you and they're really big milestones to achieve. And once you get to that point where you've already achieved them and you get to that stage where you find you are complacent, it means that you've got to set more goals in front of you. Now, I find that a lot of clients, and even particularly on occasion with myself, is that you find once you've hit those really big goals and you've achieved those big milestones you really want for yourself, it can be hard to put new goals in front of you. And from experience, both professionally and personally, I have found that the answer to those goals, if you are struggling to push out of that complacency mode, is the ones that you secretly think are too hard, maybe a little bit too far advanced for you, a little bit too far out of your reach, even though deep down you'd really want them for yourself. So that's typically the answer to your goals and what you need to strive for yourself next, because even though deep down you are happy with the changes you've made, there are still things you want to work on, and to get out of that complacency, they're the goals that you need to be reaching for. Now, after that, that's where you become then accountable to yourself and you set those goals for yourself and you become accountable to us coaches. So that whole evolution of personal goals has to happen long term. You can't avoid it unless you get to that stage where you are honestly happy with yourself. But I found that what can happen is you are happy with yourself for a little while, but then after some time you do find yourself wanting more out of yourself, and whether it's physically and emotionally or both. And that's where you come back to using your accountability with your coaches to say, hey, what's my next goal? This is what I want to work on. Now, us coaches, you know how we work. We are here as your support, but we're also here to give you every little bit of guidance that we think is going to help you achieve your goals as quickly and as honestly, as holistically successful as possible. So we often put comfort zones to the wayside and show you how to get to your goals as quickly as possible so that you can achieve the success, you know, within those time frames. So yeah, in answer to Andrea's question, really challenging yourself to come out of that complacent mode. It's about moving forward and identifying what you think is your next scary goal that you think is somewhat unachievable, because that's how it works. And it's very, very similar feeling to when you first start working with us, where you think, oh my God, I've got this big goal and I've started working with these coaches to get me there, and this is scary. It's the same kind of feeling inside when you reach your next set of goals to move into. So if you're struggling with getting out of that complacent mode, you need to find out what it is that you're doing and or not doing, and push forward and come and have a chat with us. Thank you, Andrea, for that question. I hope that answers your question. The next one was Shanae. Shanae, what's your, she's asked me what my favorite lunch or dinner meal is. And like hands down, fish and chips. Fish and chips is hands down my favorite lunch or dinner or afternoon meal. I don't care what time of the day it is, probably not for breakfast, but fish and chips is hands down my favorite, and it has to be battered everything with chicken salt, and I have to eat it with my hands and get grease everywhere, and it's really messy, but that is by far my favorite meal. Kelly has asked us, can you introduce you to your puppies? The answer is yes, but they're outside at the moment, so I have Tim that has promised to bring them in. Hey babe, can you get the dogs? Everybody on the live chat wants to see them. Thank you. Kelly has asked the other question though, which is, what is your favorite dessert meal? Something sweet to hit the spot. Now, I love pineapple lollies and mud cake. They are the two favorite things that hit my sweet spot. So that answers your question. Hello everybody. Hello. Hello. Okay, so I've got dogs here. So for anyone who doesn't know, our household is like, we're a family of 6. So we have a cat, 3 chihuahuas. Come here. Come. So this is Pearl. Pearl is 13. Isn't she, babe? 13. And she is really excited. Pearl is she's like half a chihuahua. Hey, you think that no one ever pat you ever in your life? Say hello to everybody, Pearl. Thank you. Okay. Next one is Frankie. So this one is Frank. He looks happy, right? Frankie is Pearl's husband. He is 6. Is he 6, babe? So he's 6. He is our little naughty little chihuahua, but he's got a few seizure problems at the moment, so he makes little like screeching noises and what have you, but he is definitely he's not, I'd say I have favorites, but you know, that's how it works. Okay, so that's 2. Shut up everybody. Hang on, wait. No, Pearl. Wait. Wait. This is Peppino. So he is their son. So Pearl and Frank have had him. Now, yeah, they fight. They fight like crazy. It's mental. But Peppino is 5, and he is our special little dog. He's just had 13 teeth taken out like 2 weeks ago, right? So he's our little gummy shark. Have no teeth, do you, buddy? He's become an inside dog because he's just the goodest inside. The others have to stay outside because they piss everywhere and they're just naughty. So yeah, that's our family. Babe, do you want to come and say hello? So everyone can meet. Everyone met the cat last week.
No, okay.
And this is my partner, Tim. So they're actually
I
his...
can't see anyone.
No, it's just a live video.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just, people will watch this and then they'll know who you are.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
So anyway, they're Tim's dogs. He came as a package deal of family of 4. And now we're a family of 6.
Come on, outside, let's
Outside, everybody.
go. Come on.
Thank you. Out. Pepino, outside.
Out.
Quick.
Out.
Outside. Outside.
I got him.
Okay, thank you. All right. We have busy lives. Don't ever buy 3 chihuahuas. It's too many. Like there's chihuahuas and then there's having too many chihuahuas, and I think 3 is the threshold. So yeah, thank you, Kelly. That's our family. And Kelly's other question was my favorite dessert meal, which is definitely pineapple lollies and chocolate mud cake, or chocolate cake of any type. Kelly's asked a second question, which is really good. I'm a complete gym noob, and this is the first time I have ever used a squat rack. Can you please give us a quick 101 on the safety arms and bars? What types of exercises we should use them for? And how do we set them up in a way that keeps us safe but doesn't compromise the exercise? So this is a really, really good question, Kelly. Now, if I was at a gym, I would actually do a little bit of a tutorial for you, but since I am in the comfort of my own home and I don't have a squat rack, the general rule of thumb is to set your safety arms. So these are the arms that catch you from the bar dropping. The safety arms you want to set about 1 inch to 1.5 inches below your lowest range of motion. So if you are squatting and you squat down to here, and this is where the bar meets, you want to set your safety rail up just to here. Now, the reason I say set it lower than your complete and full range of movement is because you don't want your barbell to be knocking the safeties every time you lower. It's going to do one of 2 things. It's either going to short circuit your range of motion and you're just going to hit the bar and come back up again, which isn't going to help you in any way, shape or form to get the ideal technique down pat. And what I found that it does is psychologically it stops you, and it can short circuit that mindset that you need to have, that concentration level. So if you're hitting that bar every time, you become distracted and focus on the banging of the bar. And quite often I've seen it happen where injuries happen because you lose muscle tension. So you might have been focusing on keeping your core tight and your chest upright. And if you hit something and it distracts you, you can lose that. So you become like at a higher risk of an injury. Now, a squat rack is really, really versatile. So that's why I've sort of put a blanket rule on setting it about 1 inch or 1.5 inches below your deepest range of motion. And that can apply for squats. It can apply for split squats or Bulgarian squats. It can apply if you're using your squat rack for as a bench press, and you use the arms, to set it just for your bench press. It can apply for a lot of things. Personally, I don't use the safety arms. If I'm going to do an overhead shoulder press with the barbell, I don't generally set the safety arms too high because I find the racking clips become my safety mechanism, because I set the safety bar where the bar rests and I set it just below my shoulders. So then when I re-rack it, my safety, I know that physically I'm not going to drop the bar to the ground. My safety is actually the racking clips. So I hope that answers your question. And that was a really, really good question. I think between the 3 of us, Andrea, Matt and Courtney, or the 4 of us really, we should do a little tutorial on that because it's a really good question for a new person coming into the gym. Now, if you are in a position where you are inside a frame that doesn't have safety rails that are adjustable to your height, it's higher than your full range of motion, I would suggest finding another piece of equipment that allows you to get to your full range of motion. It's just going to keep holding you back. Thank you, Kelly, for that awesome question. Shanae's come in with another question. Thank you very much. Okay, let me get my thing back on. Okay, so Shanae, oh shit, I've just clicked out of it. Hang on, wait. Shanae, when you posted that when you first started, did you see results and improvements with every progress photo? I know one day I will stop seeing progress every picture because of internal changes, and I wanted to know how you handled that mentally. I know I will struggle when I stop seeing external changes. So Shanae, for me, I didn't see any physical changes for months. It was over a year before I saw my photos change. I didn't look any different in my monthly progress photos for a really long time. And that's due to a number of factors because of my condition, my PCOS. I was just so hormonally fucked up. And because of my dieting history for about 10 to 12 years, I had damaged my metabolism as well. So I had quite a few factors and underlying internal factors that, needed to be addressed first. So for someone who's in this situation, and there are a few of us in this particular group, in this coaching group, all of the internal repair process has to happen first before the bigger physical changes happen later down the track. Now, I want you to consider that asking yourself the question, Shanae, because if you're going to struggle with improving yourself based on seeing external progress, I want you to ask yourself the question about, are you putting all your eggs in one basket, i.e. it's either epic physical changes or everything else is a complete failure? Now, I'm not discounting the fact that you want to change your reflection by any means, but there's just this thing that us coaches harp on about, which is called the golden triangle, which is how we look, how we feel, and how we function. So I need you to ask yourself that if you woke up tomorrow morning and you looked the way that you wanted to, but deep inside you still had emotional eating battles, you struggled with confidence, you couldn't put yourself first, and you just felt like shit because of a whole collection of reasons, would you classify that as a mission complete? Would you classify that as, I have reached my goal and this is me now? Personally, I wouldn't. And I know that when you first started, you would have picked out a few different habits or mindsets that you knew at the time were holding you back and that you needed to work on, and that were contributing the way that you were when you first started working with us coaches. So some of them you will have realized those habits were dictating how you may have felt. Those ill habits may have been dictating how you feel and not necessarily connected to how you looked. And that happens for all of us. So when you approach the way that we coach with our golden triangle, yes, we certainly want to see you make those physical changes that you want, but we hold just as much value to what makes you feel and how you function better as well. Now, I think that this is a really common thing for people to get into. It's like, I can't see anything happening, so it mustn't be real. I'm not making any progress because I can't see it. And it happens so often that if you get into that mindset, it tends to short circuit all those improvements that you're making in having perhaps more energy. You're sleeping better. You might be getting quicker and more confident in meal prep. You might be better at putting yourself first instead of everybody else. You might be feeling more alert. Those cravings aren't as demanding. Your blood pressure drops off. You're getting stronger at the gym. You can make it halfway through Mount Burpee. Things like that. All of those things are big fucking deals, right? It's really, really good improvements. But if you're focusing on only looking good, you're not going to get to celebrate any of that. So there's often that little reality check that really does need to happen at that point, because if you stay in that physical changes only mindset, you will give up eventually. And I'm not saying that without knowing from experience, either from myself or professionally. We see it happen a lot. So reality checks are purely there to remind you that holistically changing everything, so everything that you're working on and you're improving at and progressing at, is worthy, and so that you can stay focused on what you're doing. And it's coming back to having it all connected to your big goal. And then once you're there, it's about staying accountable to two things. It's about staying accountable to yourself and what you truly, the promises that you want to keep for yourself, and not breaking the promises that you have set for yourself. And it's also about being accountable to the coaches, because we can find that those things can fall to the wayside when a mindset is shifted in the wrong direction, i.e. only focusing on external changes. So I hope that that answers your question. But it is a really, really good question to highlight, because I know that this physical changes only type of mindset happens to a lot of people. And you won't be the first nor the last one to experience that. Okay, so Jessica sent through another question this week. Thank you, Jess. What date suggestions do you have while trying to still eat healthy while it's too cold to be outside? Good question. So kind of brings me back to the question that Matt asked last time, which is my most interesting injury from sexual experience. So date ideas while still trying to eat healthy. I mean, I don't know. You could head down that track. But if you want to have a little date night and still eat healthy, as opposed to, you know, if it's not your treat night and you're not having some treat food, I really recommend doing some of those deconstructed things. I think Andrea posted a really awesome idea the other day where she was actually in the car and had like nibble food, but it was all sectioned off into portioned meals for her. Now this approach works in multiple ways. It's like the idea that just keeps on giving, because deconstructed meals can really change up how you approach food, because I am one who does like to eat with my hands a lot. Don't know why, but I know I'm not the only one. So having deconstructed meals where you can pick at, you know, things like fruit platters and nibble food. So like that, the zucchini slice or corn fritters, you know, you can pick them apart with your hands. Even just cooking like chicken tenders or little meatballs and having, you know, some like veggie sticks and making your own like hummus or your own dip. Those types of things can really still be quite a healthy choice. Hell, you could nearly say they were compliant. And it is completely the opposite to, you know, ordering in like Uber Eats or McDonald's or takeaway deep fried food. So that's a really, really good way to change up date night, and certainly change up date night foods, because I know for a fact my other half, he loves just picking at food and chips and dip and stuff, and you can have all the crackers and that out as well, but certainly having a good choice of healthy things that you can nibble at really makes it feel like an inside picnic. And yeah. Now, in regards to indoor activities, obviously sex, that would be like my first one, but however, sometimes it's not an option. So I do love board games. We actually have a puzzle set up downstairs at the moment actually, I don't even know why there's a puzzle downstairs. I think Tim just set it up. So we have a puzzle on our big coffee table at the moment That's going strong. 4 weeks in, I think we've done about 5 pieces and the border. So that's a really good way to do a little puzzle night. But I also really like the idea of indoor sports centers. Now, if you're listening to this and coming from different parts of the world, I don't know what's near you, but things like indoor rock climbing, roller skating or derby, trampoline parks, indoor volleyball, things like that, and going to the movies is a really good inside date activity. And I know that, or ice skating, although Jess, it sounds like you can do that outside in your pond anyway, but for the rest of us who get to that stage where it's too hot to be outside and we can't go to the beach, it does come down to looking at different ideas and perhaps trying something new. So stepping outside of what you normally do and finding indoor activities that fit the bill. And you know what? Date night can even be as simple as going for a drive somewhere new. That is often a really good go-to for us as well. So yeah, there are a few ideas, and I hope that answers your question and triggers off a few more things that you can get doing on dates. Matt's posted a few questions. Thank you very much. Matt, what do you feel are the most necessary superpowers to have or to develop to ensure long-term success with a transformation? So obviously you have to have unlimited motivation, you have to detox your whole life, and you have to have no emotional connections with food ever. And that's how we exist, and that's how it should be. They're the superpowers that we need. Jokes. So those things don't even exist, because you can't have unlimited motivation, you can't have unlimited willpower, and to be able to diet and withstand all your favorite foods the rest of your life is just never going to happen, because what's the point in fucking living? So in order to actually gain the most power for yourself and habits for the long-term success, I feel that it comes down to staying accountable. Staying accountable, like I said with Shanae's question, staying accountable to yourself and staying accountable to coaches. So there's 2 levels of being accountable, and actually I would even say 3. So being accountable to yourself, being accountable to those who are closest to you, so your physical support network, so your family or your friends or both, and then being accountable to us coaches. The next one I would say is to be patient. Be patient. I know it's hard, right? Not everyone has patience in them, but it is definitely a skill and a superpower that we need to develop in order to get this right. And I feel that the patience thing really serves us in other areas in life. Once you start practicing it just in your transformation, I find that the patience game really expands into other things, into work, into relationships with others. And I really, really appreciate the patience thing. It's taught me a lot about myself and others as well. The next one I have is be respectful to your body and what it needs to go through physically to get the result that you want. So understanding the process of what has to happen under the skin first, and physically what your body has to go through to get that result. So a lot of our clients come to us and they're nutritionally deficient and are metabolically damaged by way of diets and environmental factors. Just appreciate what you have to repair for your body first before it can, go through that physical change journey. Now, in the same hand, don't undermine what you emotionally have to overcome to get those physical results. So that's a really big thing for me. When I first started, I was a little bit shadowed with how many emotional boundaries I had set for myself, how many bad emotional toxic thoughts I had about myself, or with food, or with exercise, or with support networks. I was very much a victim to my situation, which was very closely connected to that time when I had hit my rock bottom. Now, when it comes to having that long-term success, you have to really be prepared to acknowledge your emotional mindset, because you can't fight through it. You can't ignore it. You will have to process how you see yourself, how you process guilt, and how you perceive, your transformation, and then connect it to what your body has to physically go through to achieve that golden triangle transformation. So how you look, how you feel, and how you function. My other tip and necessary superpower is listen to our podcasts. So you might think that our podcasts are wholly and solely for people other than our clients. You are dead wrong. Our podcasts exist for our clients first and foremost. They are one of the most incredible and undermined resources that you can listen to when you start working with us. And I know that a lot of clients, they come to us from our podcast, which is awesome. That's great. And you already learn. But what we find is that they stop listening once they start working with us, and they feel like that should stop, but it shouldn't. Keep listening to our podcast because they are designed for you. And other than that, after you finish listening to our podcast, keep learning about yourself. So I always have a little bit of a goal in front of me to listen to other podcasts, because that's how I learn about myself. That's how I learn about my body. It's how I learn about my condition, and in turn help you guys. But I listen to other things about self-growth that aren't directly related to anything I do for work. So it might be about how my mindset works, how I process things. So it's all about learning about myself, and in turn improving myself long term, and having perspective of what's going on around me. So Matt, I hope that answers your question. Stay accountable, be patient, have respect for your body and what it physically needs to go through. Don't undermine what you emotionally need to overcome and learn. Listen to our podcast and use other resources to learn about yourself too. Matt's next question is, what are your most and least favorite exercises in the gym? So, Matt, you were really unclear about how this question is worded, because, is it for me, or how do I like watching other people? So I'm going to answer it for both. So my most favorite exercise for me personally to do is the lat pull down. I love it because it makes me feel strong, and it makes me feel really, really accomplished. Don't ask me why. It just triggers something inside me that makes me enjoy it. Now, my most favorite exercise that I like others doing, or pretty much just checking out, I like watching other guys and other girls actually too deadlift. Now, I like it on the fact that if they are doing an absolute stellar job and nailing a deadlift, it's like porn to me. I swear to God, I will be just staring at them and just unable to stop watching them in pure admiration, because I really respect what goes on to execute a deadlift, and the concentration and the physical strength, and mobility that it takes to execute a deadlift. I'm just like, fuck yeah, that's nice. So, actually, you know what? The deadlift and lat pull down is probably my favorite, because, I can see why the deadlift can be fucked up, but I also see how the lat pull down can be fucked up too. Like, people, like, they're just going, or they get like friggin' rowing going. I don't know what's going on, but when somebody's doing it right, holy shit, I can't stop watching. And I have been known to actually go up to people and let them know how much of an awesome job they did after I wiped the drool off my face with my sweat towel. So Matt, thank you for that. Most favorite is lat pull down. Watching others is deadlifts and lat pull down. My least favorite exercise is any ab work. I fucking hate training my abs. Don't ask me why. I just always have, and potentially always will. I'm not sure. That doesn't mean I don't do it. I do it reluctantly, kind of like meal prep, because I don't like that either. But any ab work is crunches or raises or whatever. I don't care. That wheel thing, that can get fucked. Don't like that either. My least favorite thing to watch others do is deadlifts. So this is a bit of an oxymoron here, because There's a certain amount of pain and suffering that I experience when I see someone doing a really bad deadlift, and it's an internal pain. Like, I think my joints nearly hurt for them if it's bad. So I know that there's a few other clients in this group who may, once they've gotten to that stage where they're executing their deadlifts really well, that they may see others doing it incorrectly, and they are just wincing in pain and getting like an eye twitch as well. And it's a real thing, it happens. Thank you, Matt. Now, Matt's third question, and it's actually the last question. Matt, what are your top tips for moving away from a diet mindset? So I've written these down because you did ask a very similar question last time, but I know that there's different people that come in and watch these, so I'm going to touch on them again. Now, top tips for moving away from a diet mindset. Number one is be prepared to learn and be prepared to unlearn certain things and knowledge that you have about food. The stuff that you're learning right now with us, hold on to that and practice it each day. Now, the stuff that you have to unlearn and that you realize isn't quite the healthy way or the right way, unlearn it and let it go from your actual habits and your actions. But before you disregard it, I want you to use that knowledge that you know about, food, the old knowledge that you had about food, use that to understand how some of your behaviors surrounding food may have led you to where you are now, and the place that you're at when you start working with us. Now, this is a big one because this is progressive. You will learn and have to unlearn stuff step by step by step, long into the journey, 12 months, 18, 2 years down the track, you will have to learn and unlearn certain things. And that happens. It's not about your first 12 weeks, you learn all this stuff and then everything else is gone to the wayside. You will learn things about your behaviors that you've had about food long into your journey, and that's fine. I think it's taken me a good 4 or 5 years to really acknowledge my thoughts about food and how it's shaped the choices that I've made for myself, both before my transformation and then during my transformation to now. So it's all really valuable knowledge, but it's how you practice it and how you use it for good. Number 2 is, what have I written here? Oh yes, that's right. Number 2 is your environment and the people in it that are surrounding you are more powerful than you realize. So when it comes to what choices you make about food and how you surround yourself and how you approach food, the people in your environment will be impacting it. Now, and it's going to be much more powerful than you realize, and you will have to accept that. Now, take notice of that and take notice of what kind of positive influences they have. So whether it's a people or a place, take notice of what positive choices and what positive habits that environment or that person has on you, as well as those less than ideal influences. So yes, there will be toxic people and toxic environments that do not help your goals or the person you want to be, and you will have to accept that, and you will have to put mechanisms into place to either react differently in that environment. If you can't change or avoid your environment, you will just have to put in mechanisms to react differently. So for somebody who works in hospitality and is always exposed to less than ideal food, you potentially can't change your environment because that's your source of income. However, it means that you don't rely on the chef cooking you lunch or helping yourself to the bain-marie for afternoon tea. It means that you will have to change what you do and what food you bring to work. That means you are able to make a better food choice. So I hope that explains that one. Number 3 for top tips for moving away from a diet mindset is don't use MP as another diet. we see this a lot where clients come on board, they're looking for the next secret for diets and thinking that MP is just another diet, but it's not. We as coaches, we set some really broad and recommended boundaries, but inevitably they are there as guidance lights. They're not walls. MP is really great for teaching the basics. So yes, there are some boundaries that we have to set so that you can gain the basic knowledge, but there is much more to it and than what's written on the paperwork, because inevitably we all want different things for ourselves, which is going to change the way that we take MP, because MP can be manipulated in all different ways. There's no one size fits all for MP. So don't use MP as your new diet and saying, this is what I have to do. This is, if I don't do anything, if I don't meet this criteria, I'm doing it wrong, because MP can be manipulated and changed in so many different ways that it's not funny. And that's why we need to, as coaches, we need to tailor everything towards each individual. Andrea, did you answer my question? Yes, I did. You were just too late. I answered it first because I thought for sure you'd be the first one on the show. But alas, you're not, and that's a little bit sad. Anyway, yes, I did. You can go back to the start of this video once I post it up. Beautiful, beautiful. Andrea, did you have another question though? No? Everyone's met the family. You also missed that, I think, maybe. You missed Tim, you missed the dogs, Pepino, Pearl, Frank. But anyway, doesn't look like we have any more questions popping through. I would like to thank everyone for their time. I know how valuable it is and how important it is for you to get the info. So I'm going to close this off, and for everyone who is watching afterwards, drop your little comments in and we can continue this chat soon. Catches.